In this video, I'm going to share with you why most PhD students struggle and how you can be happy during your PhD. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Rahul. I'm a third-year PhD student, and I used to be stressed, burnt out, and absolutely miserable during my first year of the PhD, until I made a few changes that completely transformed my PhD experience. Let's get right into it. The first thing that I did was reframing my mindset. There is a common narrative that doing a PhD is exhausting, it's isolating, it's draining. And sure, there may be some truth to those statements, but that's exactly what makes it so rewarding to do in the first place. If a PhD was easy to do, then way more people would do it. So this kind of gets into something that we as humans do in general. And it's that we tend to reinforce our identities and our beliefs. And this is actually a key principle of making habits. For example, if you want to quit drugs, for example, just saying I'm gonna quit drugs doesn't help as much as saying I'm someone who doesn't do drugs anymore, because now they have an identity of a person that doesn't do drugs, and that identity is then reinforced, and that makes them more likely to actually be able to quit. So the same is true for these negative identities and negative beliefs. If you constantly think to yourself, oh, the PhD is so exhausting, I hate doing this, I hate going into lab every single day, this is so hard, then you're going to reinforce that belief subconsciously or even consciously, that it's gonna become true. Your perception is your reality, and if you perceive that things are hard, then they will be hard. So how do you fix this? You can challenge that narrative. Mindset shifts are so powerful, and if you reframe your mind to think, okay, the PhD is challenging, but it's something that I want to do, and this is just something that I have to do to get to the next thing, or I'm actually really enjoying the PhD, then you will actually enjoy the PhD, and you'll be much happier during your PhD, and it will be a much more rewarding experience. The next thing you can do is to detach your self-worth from your research. A lot of people I know actually suffer from this, and this is something that I suffered from as well. And it's the idea that you're not your PhD. Your value is not equivalent to the number of papers that you publish. And your self-worth is no greater when your experiments are working and no less when your experiments are not working. This is a really dangerous mindset to have, because if your happiness depends on external validation, like your paper being published in a good journal or your PI being happy with you, then you will never be in control of your happiness. Just think about it. If you'll only be happy if your paper gets published, even if you get your paper published, you're just gonna say, oh, I'm only gonna be happy when the next thing happens. You're just gonna be so vulnerable to these external influences, and you're never gonna actually be happy. It's such a dangerous mindset to have, but thankfully, if you're aware of it, then you can train your mind to detach your self-worth from your research. You are your own individual person outside of your research as well. And yes, your research is a part of who you are, but it's not everything, and it does not determine your happiness. So a hack that I like to do to actually train my internal validation, because this is something I really struggled with, is to journal. And I know a lot of people say to journal without telling you exactly what to do, but I'm going to tell you exactly what I journal every single night. And what I do is, every single night I write down something that I did that day that I'm proud of. For example, I'll say, today I am proud of myself for waking up early and making it to lab. Or today I am proud of myself for working for getting into a deep work session for 4 hours this morning. Or it could even, and I do this actually for all aspects of my life. For example, one recent one that I have from my actual journal is, I am proud of myself for attending this workshop, seeing that they had cookies at the workshop, and making the decision to not eat the cookies because I wanted to focus on eating healthy and keeping my fitness. And what these journaling exercises actually do to your brain is that it trains you to actually reward yourself. You're essentially rewarding yourself by telling yourself that you're proud of yourself. And you're rewarding yourself for an internal thing that you did. And then you can just go ahead and chase the internal validation. And when you chase internal validation, you chase things like working hard or discipline or something like that. I blanked on an example, but this is so much better than training yourself to kind of crave these external validations. If you train yourself to only or to kind of crave the validation of other people, then you're just gonna this is why a lot of people become people pleasers, because as a child they've been training their external validations, and they just craved someone telling them that they were proud of them, and they grew up like this, and it was subconsciously trained, and now they don't feel happy unless someone else is telling them that they're proud of them. And that's why so many people are not happy when, for example, their PIs are not constantly giving them compliments or something like that. But you can train your internal validation with journaling. Another point kind of related to this topic is failure. You cannot be discouraged by failure, because failure is a necessary part of the process. Nobody who has ever succeeded at anything has done it without failing. I like to think of it as like iterative prototyping. You keep trying things and failing at them so that you can get better. And if you use that logic, if you think of every failure as kind of like a prototype, every failure brings you closer to success. Every time you fail, you have a higher chance of succeeding the next time, because that's one more thing that you've tried. Failures are data points. And when you have more data, you can better inform your next steps and grow at a faster rate. So embrace failure. The worst advice I've ever heard was that failure is not an option. I think that's like from Apollo 11. And when I was a kid, I visited the Space Museum in Houston, and this really stuck with me. And I really truly believed that the failure was not an option. But what that causes you to believe, it makes you think, it makes you only make safe bets. It makes you never take any risks in your life, and all the rewards in life have risk, and the greater the risk, the greater the reward. So embrace failure. It is an option. It is honestly, it's a necessary prerequisite to succeed and be happy. The last thing you can do to have a happier PhD is to prioritize your health. And I say this a lot on this channel because I see people not doing it. But the first kind of health that you need to work on is your mental health. And I see this dangerous mindset that, working more will give me more results. And sure, in the extremely short term, this is true. But just look at real life. This is not true. The corner grocery store owner works just as many hours as Elon Musk. But who produces more output for the amount of hours that they put in? It's obvious, right? So once I actually made that connection, I was like, oh my God, I don't need to work 12 hours a day for me to be productive. It's what you work on that's far more important. So spend time planning, spend time thinking, rather than just blindly like bashing your head against the wall and hoping to make some progress. And something that's going to really help with this is to make your PhD fun. Work on projects that excite you so that you want to think about it. So that in your free time, you think about new ideas that are exciting. And if your PhD project doesn't excite you, then find a way to make it exciting. Like read how your project can be applied to the real world. That's actually what I did. I work on a very niche phenomenon in physics, but at the very beginning, I didn't actually care about it until I got into reading and learning about the actual applications of my technique. That's when my PhD became interesting and exciting, and it became fun. And it can happen to you too. You just have to make those connections to what you're excited to. You also need to set boundaries. So this is kind of going off of the fact that you shouldn't be working 12-hour days. And sure, maybe sometimes you do, right? But not every single day. And the reason is you want to optimize for the long term. The PhD is a long-term game. It's going to take you like 4 or 5 years to finish this thing, right? If you work a 20-hour shift, sure, you might get more work done than in an 8-hour shift. But the next day, you're getting no work done. Or you're getting significantly less work done. So the idea here is you need to optimize for the long term, right? So schedule time blocks. Figure out when you're going to work and when you're going to rest. Because rest is how you're going to be able to come back and keep going and not get burnt out. If you get burnt out, you've completely lost your long-term working potential. So use the time that you spend not working to spend that time with friends and family so you can rest and recharge and build a support system. Because yes, the PhD is hard, but it's because it's hard that it's rewarding. So yes, optimize for the long term. Kind of in this vein is also to celebrate the small wins. The PhD is about the journey, not the destination. We're not chasing a credential. It's about the skills that we learn along the way. And I'm going to bring up a quote that I really love. And it's that the man who loves walking will travel farther than the man who loves the destination. Goes hard, doesn't it? And it's so true. If you celebrate the small wins, you'll start to look forward to the daily tasks, the experiments, the thinking, the ideation. That all is a part of the PhD. And once you start to celebrate those things, the success, the papers and stuff will come. You just have to love the walking, and you'll travel so much further than the person who's just laser focused on publishing the papers or graduating fast or whatever it is. So that's the mental health component. But you also need to prioritize your physical health. So what I recommend is to move daily. Even if you're so busy that you can't even spare 1 hour to work out, just walk to lab or go on a walk around your neighborhood. Exercising boosts my mood, and when I started working out consistently, that's when I started to become happier. It's that simple. And when I don't work out, I start to go a little crazy. And it's kind of insane how that works, but it is literally that simple. When you prioritize your mental and physical health, you just become happier. It's crazy how the world works. So that wraps up why most PhD students struggle and why you don't have to. And if you enjoyed this video, I recommend checking out my video on staying motivated during the PhD.